There is a message coming through the collective consciousness right now, and it carries the weight of panic, the frequency of regret, the vibration of someone who has just realized they are losing you forever. This is not a message from yesterday or last week or last month. This is happening in this present moment, as you hear these words, as you breathe in this exact breath. Someone you know, someone whose energy has been woven into yours through soul contract and karmic entanglement, is experiencing a rupture in their carefully constructed emotional armor. They are panicking. Not the surface-level anxiety of everyday life, but the bone-deep terror that comes when the soul recognizes it has miscalculated, has taken for granted what cannot be replaced, has assumed permanence where only fragile human choice existed. You changed something fundamental in your energetic signature, and they felt it across whatever distance separates your physical bodies, across whatever silence has grown between your last words in this moment. The shift you made, perhaps without even conscious intention, perhaps through sheer exhaustion and self-preservation, registered in their nervous system like a seismic event. You stopped waiting. You stopped holding space. You stopped being the constant they could rely on while they explored other options, other people, other versions of themselves that did not include you. And that absence, that energetic withdrawal, has created a panic in them that no logic can soothe, no distraction can mask, no pride can suppress. This is the sound of someone realizing too late that they needed you more than their ego allowed them to admit. Write in the comments, they feel it. If this transmission lands in your knowing, if you sense the truth of their current unraveling, if you recognize the urgency pulsing beneath these words as the same urgency moving through their consciousness right now. You changed, not in the loud, dramatic way that announces transformation to the world, but in the quiet, seismic way that shifts the very ground beneath a relationship without a single word spoken. You stopped performing the role of the one who waits, who hopes, who holds the door open indefinitely while they wander in circles deciding if they want to walk through it. You stopped checking if they viewed your stories, stopped crafting messages you would never send, stopped organizing your emotional state around their presence or absence in your daily life. This was not a decision you made with fanfare or declaration. This was exhaustion finally giving birth to self-preservation. This was your soul choosing its own survival over the fantasy of their eventual return. And they felt it. They felt the exact moment your energy shifted from open to closed, from available to occupied with your own becoming. Your silence stopped being the silence of waiting and became the silence of someone who has moved on to other frequencies, other focuses, other futures that no longer include them as a central character. The messages you used to send, even in your mind, even in your energetic field, have stopped transmitting. The hope you once carried like a torch in the darkness has been gently set down, not with bitterness, but with the peaceful resignation of someone who has finally accepted what is rather than what could be. They can sense this in ways they cannot articulate, in the sudden absence of something they never consciously acknowledged was there. Your energetic attention, which once flowed toward them like a river seeking the ocean, has been redirected toward your own healing, your own projects, your own life that is beginning to bloom without them as its sun. This redirection has created a void in their reality, a space where your focus once lived, and that empty space is screaming at them in frequencies louder than your words ever did. They are experiencing the paradox of loss. Only now, when you have stopped choosing them, do they begin to understand the value of being chosen by you. Only now, when your waiting has ended, do they recognize what it meant to be waited for. They thought you would always be there. This was not conscious arrogance or deliberate cruelty, but the deeply human tendency to mistake consistency for permanence, to confuse patience with unlimited tolerance, to assume that what shows up every day will continue showing up indefinitely. You were the constant in their chaos, the reliable presence in their uncertainty, the safe place they could return to after exploring other connections that inevitably revealed themselves as shallow, temporary, insufficient. They built their entire emotional architecture on the unexamined assumption that you would remain exactly where they left you, holding exactly the same feelings, waiting exactly as you had waited before. And now the architecture is collapsing. The realization is moving through their consciousness like a slow-motion avalanche, destroying every comfortable assumption they held about your relationship, about your feelings, about your willingness to maintain this pattern indefinitely. Carl Jung understood this peculiar form of suffering when he observed that we never truly value what we possess until the moment it is taken from us, until the familiar becomes suddenly, terrifyingly unavailable. They are living inside this Jungian truth right now, experiencing the specific agony of recognizing treasure only as it slips through their fingers. You were not just another option in their romantic landscape. You were the option, the one whose presence made all others feel like practice, like distraction, like attempts to avoid the intensity and authenticity that existed between you. But they could not see this while you were available, while your energy flowed toward them with such consistent devotion. The human psyche operates through contrast. We understand light only because we have experienced darkness. We value connection only after we have tasted isolation. Your withdrawal has given them the contrast they needed to finally see you clearly, to recognize the magnitude of what they casually dismissed while chasing lesser connections. They are replaying every conversation now, re-examining every moment they chose distance over intimacy, reviewing every decision that brought them to this edge where you are no longer waiting on the other side. The shock running through their system is the shock of true loss, not the theoretical loss they imagined they could always reverse, not the temporary separation they assumed would end whenever they decided to return. This is the shock of understanding that you have moved on without bitterness or drama, that you have simply and quietly chosen yourself, and that this choice might be irreversible. The person they took for granted is no longer granting them space in her energy field, and this absence is teaching them everything they refused to learn while you were present. The mental landscape they inhabit right now resembles a house where every room contains only memories of you, where every corner echoes with conversations you had and conversations you never got to have. They cannot escape the constant replay, the obsessive review of every text message, every moment of eye contact, every instance where they chose pride over vulnerability, fear over honesty, convenience over commitment. This is not the casual reminiscence of someone fondly remembering a past connection. This is the tormented examination of someone who recognizes they are losing their future. Their thoughts circle back to you compulsively, interrupting work meetings and social gatherings and quiet moments alone with the intrusive insistence of unfinished business, of words left unspoken, of feelings buried beneath layers of self-protection that now feel suffocating rather than safe. They compare everyone to you and everyone falls short. Every conversation with someone new highlights what is missing. Every date amplifies the absence of the particular chemistry that existed between you. Every attempt to move forward reveals itself as merely an attempt to recreate what they had with you and carelessly discarded. The projection is relentless now. They see your face in crowds, hear your laugh in sounds that bear no resemblance to your voice, feel your presence in rooms you have never entered. Their shadow self, that aspect of their psyche Jung identified as containing all the disowned and rejected parts of ourselves, is rising to the surface with undeniable force. All the feelings they refused to acknowledge, all the attachment they denied, all the love they could not admit, these shadow elements are flooding their consciousness now, demanding recognition, insisting on being felt rather than suppressed. No one feels like you. This phrase repeats in their mind like a mantra, like a curse, like a truth they can no longer avoid no matter how many distractions they pile onto their schedule, no matter how many new faces they introduce into their life. The energetic signature you carry, the specific frequency of your soul, has imprinted itself on their system in ways they only now begin to understand. They thought they could find this elsewhere. They were wrong. Where your energy once filled them, there is now hollow space, an emptiness that follows them through their days like a shadow they cannot outrun, like a hunger no meal can satisfy. This is not merely emotional absence but energetic vacuum, the specific phenomenon that occurs when two souls have been deeply entangled, and one suddenly withdraws its presence from the shared field. You are not just occupying space in their thoughts or their schedule, you were woven into their energetic body, your consciousness touching theirs in the subtle realms where souls communicate beneath the surface of words and physical presence. When you withdrew your attention, when you stopped sending your energy toward them through thought and and patient waiting, you created a void in their energetic system that they can feel but cannot name. They try to fill this void with activity, with other people, with work and exercise and social obligations that keep them moving fast enough to outrun the emptiness. But the void persists. It grows. It demands attention with increasing insistence because what you provided was not replaceable through generic connection or casual intimacy. You were meeting needs they never consciously acknowledged, providing a form of soul nourishment they took for granted until the supply was cut off. The collective unconscious holds space for these kinds of connections, recognizes them as significant beyond what the rational mind can comprehend. Jung spoke of the reality that exists beneath our individual awareness, the shared psychic space where souls touch and influence each other across time and distance. You and this person have touched in that deeper realm, have created energetic pathways between your consciousness and theirs, and those pathways are now experiencing the pain of severance. They reach for you in the invisible dimensions where soul speaks to soul, and they find only absence where your presence once bloomed. Subscribe to this channel for weekly spiritual guidance on navigating divine timing, energetic connections, and the sacred journey back to yourself. This void you have left is teaching them what no words could teach, revealing through pure absence what your presence meant, forcing them to confront the magnitude of what they treated as optional. The emptiness is the teacher now, and the lesson is brutal in its clarity. If fear was not stopping them, if pride would step aside for just one moment of raw honesty, if the voice of their soul could speak without interference from the wounded ego that has governed their choices until now, they would tell you everything. I was wrong. These three words cycle through their mind 1,000 times a day, heavy with the weight of recognition, sharp with the pain of hindsight that shows them every moment they chose self-protection over truth. I was wrong to leave, wrong to assume you would wait indefinitely, wrong to test your patience as though it were infinite, wrong to treat your love as something that required no maintenance, no reciprocity, no acknowledgement. I am sorry. The apology sits in their throat like a stone unspoken because speaking it would require admitting the full extent of their error, would demand a vulnerability they have spent years avoiding, would mean dropping the defensive postures that have kept them safe but lonely. I need you. This confession terrifies them most of all because needing implies dependence, requires admission of the heart's truth, contradicts the story they have told themselves about their independence, their options, their ability to thrive without you. But the need is undeniable now, rising through their consciousness like water flooding a basement, impossible to ignore no matter how many sandbags of distraction they pile against it. They want to tell you that no one understands them the way you understood them, that no connection has felt as natural as the one you shared, that they have searched in 100 faces for the specific light that lived in your eyes when you looked at them. They want to confess that leaving was not strength but cowardice, not wisdom but fear, not choosing better but running from the intensity of what you offered. They want to explain that they thought they needed space to figure themselves out, only to discover that the space without you feels less like freedom and more like exile from the only place they ever felt truly home. But they hesitate. Pride whispers that reaching out means admitting defeat, that returning means acknowledging how wrong they were, that speaking these truths means surrendering the last shreds of ego that keep them feeling in control. Fear suggests you have moved on completely, that you would reject them, that the door they assumed would always be open has finally, firmly closed. They are at war with themselves, caught in the excruciating space between the soul's knowledge and the ego's resistance, between the heart's clear directive and the mind's endless justifications for inaction. Pride stands on one side of this internal battlefield, armed with all the reasons they should not reach out, should not admit error, should not show vulnerability to someone they once walked away from. Pride reminds them of their reasons for leaving, inflates those reasons to justify the continued separation, suggests that returning would make them look weak or indecisive or emotionally unstable. Love stands on the other side, weaponless but undeniable, pulling them toward you with a force that grows stronger each day, whispering that authentic connection matters more than appearing consistent, that your presence in their life is worth more than the preservation of their carefully construct. Ted's self-image. Fear of rejection battles against fear of loss in an endless cycle that keeps them paralyzed between action and inaction, between reaching out and staying silent. They fear that if they contact you now, after all this time, after you have clearly moved on, you will reject them, and that rejection would confirm their worst suspicions about their own unworthiness. But they equally fear that if they remain silent, you will continue moving forward without them, and the window of opportunity will close permanently, irrevocably, leaving them with nothing but regret and the haunting knowledge of what they allowed to slip away. Jung understood this internal fragmentation, this war between different aspects of the psyche that want contradictory outcomes. The integrated self remains elusive when pride and love cannot coexist, when the ego and the soul speak different languages, when what we want and what we fear wanting create paralysis instead of action. But pride is beginning to crack under the sustained pressure of your absence. The armor they built to protect themselves from vulnerability is revealing itself as the very barrier that keeps them from the connection they crave. There will come a moment, inevitable, approaching, marked by divine timing they cannot control, when pride will finally break, when the pain of staying silent becomes greater than the fear of reaching out, when the soul's directive becomes louder than the ego's resistance. That moment is building inside them now, gathering force like a wave that must eventually crash onto shore. Watch for the specific behaviors that signal the internal dam is about to break, the particular patterns that emerge when someone can no longer sustain the distance they have maintained. They are viewing your social media with obsessive frequency now, checking your stories within minutes of you posting them, scrolling through your feed looking for clues about your emotional state, your current life, whether you appear happy or still carrying the weight of their absence. This digital presence is their way of staying connected while maintaining the illusion of separation, their compromise between the desire for contact and the fear that prevents direct communication. They are reaching out to mutual friends with casual questions that mask deeper investigation, asking about you in ways they hope sound natural but reveal their continued preoccupation. The synchronicities are intensifying. You think of them and your phone lights up with a notification from them, or you hear their name in conversation, or you encounter reminders of them in locations and contexts where their presence should be random, but feels orchestrated by forces beyond coincidence. These are not accidents but evidence of energetic entanglement, the phenomenon Jung identified as synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden connections between consciousness and reality. Your intuition may spike with sudden knowing, moments where you simply feel their presence despite physical distance, where you receive clear internal messages that they are thinking of you, struggling with the decision to contact you, preparing themselves to finally speak what has remained unspoken. Dreams may carry their image, not as random memory fragments, but as messages from the deeper layers of consciousness where souls communicate without the interference of waking ego. They may show up in unexpected physical locations, creating situations that feel too coincidental to be mere chance, engineering encounters that allow them to see you without the vulnerability of direct contact. Their energy is shifting from resistant to ready, from defended to desperate, from prideful to pleading. Share this video with someone who is feeling their person's energy shifting, who senses the approach of the conversation that will change everything, who knows in their soul that the silence is about to break. The universe is coordinating the timing of your reconnection, aligning circumstances and consciousness in preparation for the moment when pride finally surrenders to truth, when fear steps aside for honesty, when the person who walked away finally finds the courage to come back. But here is what matters most. Whether or not they reach out, whether or not they find that courage, whether or not this reconnection occurs in the timing and manner you might hope for, you are already on the path to your highest good. You hold the power now, and this is not the bitter power of revenge or the hollow power of withholding love as punishment. This is the authentic power that comes from choosing yourself, from recognizing your worth independent of their validation, from understanding that your peace matters more than the resolution of any particular relationship. You do not owe them your waiting. You do not owe them an open door simply because they finally recognized what they lost. You do not owe them the benefit of your presence just because they have decided in their own timing that they are ready to value what they once discarded. Your healing, your growth, your journey toward wholeness, these are not obligations to pause while someone else catches up to the emotional maturity they should have carried from the beginning. The paradox that holds truth for your soul right now is this: whether they return or not, you have already won. You have won because you stopped abandoning yourself to wait for someone else to choose you. You have won because you redirected your energy from trying to make them see your value to actually living your value in ways that serve your own becoming. You have won because you chose peace over chaos, self-respect over breadcrumbs, presence over fantasy. If they return with genuine transformation, with accountability and changed behavior and the emotional capacity to meet you as an equal, then you can decide from your power whether this aligns with who you are becoming, whether this serves your highest path, whether this relationship deserves space in the life you are building. And if they do not return, if pride keeps them silent or fear keeps them away, or they simply remain unable to rise to the level of love you deserve, then you will continue moving forward, uninterrupted, undeterred, undiminished by their absence. Your worth is not determined by their recognition of it. Your value does not fluctuate based on their awareness or blindness. You are not diminished by their departure or validated by their return. You are whole, complete, worthy of profound love and genuine commitment, regardless of what they choose to do with their own fear and pride and unresolved wounds. This is your power, not the power to control their choices, but the power to choose yourself regardless of what they decide. This story is reaching its climax, moving toward the inevitable moment of resolution that divine timing has been orchestrating beneath the surface of all your waiting and wondering. The energetic tension that has been building cannot sustain itself indefinitely. Something must break, must shift, must give way to new form. Either they will come back honest, stripped of pride and pretense, ready to meet you with the vulnerability and commitment that was missing before, prepared to do the internal work required to sustain the connection they once treated carelessly. Or you will close the door at peace, recognizing that some people are meant to teach us about our own strength rather than accompany us into our future, understanding that their absence created the space necessary for you to discover who you are when you stop organizing your life around someone else's potential. Both outcomes are victories for you. Both paths lead you toward your highest alignment. Both possibilities serve your soul's evolution. If they return transformed, you gain a relationship built on mutual recognition and authentic commitment, rather than the unstable foundation of convenience and assumption that existed before. If they do not return, or if they return unchanged, you gain yourself, fully, completely, without the fragmentation that occurs when we give pieces of our soul to people who cannot properly hold them. The universe is aligning you with what you truly deserve, arranging circumstances with intelligence far beyond what your conscious mind can perceive, orchestrating outcomes that serve your growth even when the path feels uncertain. Trust the process that is unfolding. Trust your own power to choose wisely when the moment of decision arrives. Trust that your peace, your healing, your commitment to yourself has already shifted the trajectory of your entire life in ways you will understand more clearly as time reveals its lessons. You are not waiting anymore, you are becoming. And whether they witness this becoming or not, whether they join you on this path or not, you are moving toward the life and love that matches the frequency you now carry. The collision is coming, but you are already whole.